Hi, I'm Selena Hill, the digital editor at Black Enterprise, and this is The New Norm. Today, I'm with singer and songwriter Elle Varner, who has a new single out called Crazy Wild. But before we get to that, let me ask Elle, how are you coping with the civil unrest that has swept the nation in light of the recent wave of killings of Black men and women across the nation?
You know, it hits me in waves. First it was anger and rage, and then it was sadness and like really overwhelming to where I had to just turn everything off for a minute just to take care of myself, because I think it's just reminding so many of us we've seen this happen before, right? We've seen it Tamir Rice, we've seen it, Sandra Bland, this is not the first time. We've been seeing it more and more for years. But when everyone has a voice at the same time, and then you get to see the opposing voices, you know, by millions of people, it's just a lot to digest. So I think that it's important for each person to find their own individual way to cope with what's going on. And if that's, you know, if you're overwhelmed, if you're at capacity, unplug, take a minute for yourself, breathe, make some phone calls, find your support system in life, you know, in your real life as well as online. And that's how I've managed to kind of pull myself back up and say, you know what, as in addition to donating, which I've done, in addition to registering to vote, and I've become a member of NAACP and all these things, and protest, I've done all these things, I can also contribute music to help people heal at this time, to give people a little bit of escape, because it's just tragic. And unfortunately, it's a horrible way for us to go about addressing the issue that's been going on for hundreds of years in this country. The systemic racism, it's all out there now. There's no more hiding it. And even, you know, some of the disingenuous companies, we stand with you and we support you. It's like, yeah, now you do. But even that, just, even if you don't take away a feeling of that is genuine, you know, that your voice matters, your dollars matter, your life matters. So it's, you know, it's a lot.
It is a lot. And I'm happy that you touched on the history of systemic racism. You know, this is a fight that is a long time coming. It sort of culminated into this moment. But what do you think is the role for musicians and artists in this fight for freedom?
I think that you just have to understand that everyone, we like to put people in categories, right? And then we just assume, okay, you're an athlete, you're a musician, you're a nurse, you're a doctor, but people are so multidimensional in whatever they do. And I think that we should start treating individuals across the board for who they are. Everyone doesn't have the knowledge. Everyone doesn't have the, even the verbal capacity, you know, to say maybe what's on their heart. And I don't think it's fair to assume that someone is not doing something because they're not saying something. I don't think it's fair to tell someone, hey, shut up and just play ball, or shut up and just sing, or, you know, I think we really need some sensitivity in this country, especially because we're just so charged up. And I think that each individual should be able to voice how they feel, the way they feel on their respective platforms.
No, absolutely. And, you know, on top of that, and dealing with the pandemic of racism, we're also going through the pandemic of coronavirus.
Yeah.
You know, just to make everything in this world worse. How are you coping with that and sheltering in place?
I mean, I just have, I just adjusted as quickly as possible. I've been through so many different trials in my life that I feel that that actually prepared me better for this moment. You know, even with it, as far as my music goes, and the years that I wasn't able to release music, that was me sitting out, you know. So now I'm sitting out at home, and I'm just trying to use the time and use the tools that I've learned. Like, okay, find things that bring you joy, you know, get creative. I've registered for Rosetta Stone, you know what I mean? I'm learning new languages. I'm taking classes online. I was cooking for a while, just really not allowing myself to get into that place of like, uh, I feel hopeless, you know.
You definitely don't want to get into a funk. You know, it's been mentally challenging for
Yes.
all of us.
And that's inevitable. That's a part of life. You know, there's peaks and valleys. You definitely don't want to make yourself feel bad for feeling bad. That's what you don't want to do. I think the best, I'm not a psychiatrist or anything, but I will say that allowing yourself to, for things to run their course, you know, if it's depression, if it's whatever it is, you can allow yourself to experience that, and that's perfectly healthy, you know. And as you go through it, you just find little things. YouTube is great. You can literally put depression on YouTube, you know, and find videos. You can put confidence, you can put boundaries, like whatever it is that you are looking for, it's out there. There's therapy, you know, there's so many things that will support you. You just have to have the smallest will to want to change it.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are great points.
Mhm.
Another thing I want to ask you, you know, is how do you think the pandemic is affecting the music industry? You know, as someone like you who's an artist, and we see that concerts have been canceled. We don't know if that's going to happen
Yeah.
in a very, very long time. So what effects is it having on the music industry?
It's massive. I mean, you know, so many artists, their bread and butter is touring. They make pennies from streaming, you know what I mean? So it's really hard to not know where that end is in sight. But again, it is, you are seeing uplifting things, whether it's like D Nice and his DJing, you know, and the versus battles, and it's just a time to take a step back. Everyone's being reset. It's happening, whether you embrace it or not, it is happening. So it's up to you how you're going to make that work, you know. For me, it's just about preparing and being ready when it does open back up, so that I can maximize that opportunity.
Another thing you've been doing during this quarantine period is writing and producing.
Yeah.
In fact, Crazy Wild is something that came out of quarantine. Not only did you write it, you wrote it, you produced it, you recorded it from your home. You know,
Yeah.
what was your inspiration for that?
Man, I just like, it was literally the week before, it was the week that we knew we were about to get shut down. I went to Guitar Center like 2 days before, and I bought an MPC, I bought a keyboard, and a MIDI keyboard, and like a microphone, some padding for my microphone. And I just was like, well, I'm going to get to work. Of course, that didn't happen the way I thought it would. You know, I'm watching Netflix and this and that. But every time I did go to my laptop and just really sit there and be with my music and my thoughts, it's been such a release, and also a challenge to have that discipline, you know, to keep trying when that voice is saying, you're not as good as this one, or you're not, you know, you're not Timbaland, you're not Pharrell, or, and it's crazy how we do that with our minds. We forget that every person started somewhere. No one is just born knowing how to to be a master at something. It takes time. So it's been a blessing, something that I've enjoyed learning and getting better at, and I'm just proud of myself for putting it out. The response has been incredible. You know, I'm like, wow, I could have been doing this sooner, to be honest. And I'm glad, whatever it took, that I trust myself now, and I'm excited to keep this going.
Yeah, you know, and I'm actually, what I think a lot of us struggle with those thoughts that you just had. You know, the power of the mind is real and it's so strong. But what if we told ourselves, no, we are that good, or we are that powerful, or we are that competent? What could happen?
Let me tell you, I have firsthand experience many times in my life. I like to say it like this. It's black and white. It's yes or no. When you decide that you are going to do something, everything else falls underneath that decision. And then the universe, God, however you like to see it, it's going to support you regardless. It's going to support you and it's going to support you in a positive thought. It doesn't pick and choose. Once you make that decision, I remember, you know, wanting to go to NYU, and my college counselor told me, my high school counselor was like, she literally said, don't bother. You don't have the grades, don't bother. That just the way I got in that program, I sent in the application the day it was due. My mom had to go to LAX to, you know, the 24-hour postal service to get it stamped, and like, it was just so much. But when I got that package, I was like, oh, see, I'm not listening to people. And then those situations continued. Many years I tried to get a deal, you know, even when I was in college or before college, and people were saying, you should be a songwriter like Neo, you know, you should write for other people and then you can be an artist. And I said, no, I want to be an artist, and he's incredible, but that's not the path that I want to take. I want to give this to myself. So really, when you make those decisions, it's this beautiful gift you give to yourself. You give yourself permission to receive that which you desire. And I'm telling you, it works. There's no doubt about it. It's really on you, you know, and I mean, it's not, I see so many people, and I get it. They're like, you know, your friends should support you. Your family should support you. Absolutely. But if it doesn't happen, you can still make it happen on your own, regardless.
You can. And I'm so glad that you brought up the example of you going to NYU. Weren't you selected to go to the Clive Davis musical program? It's a highly competitive program. Only 24 students are selected a year. And you were able to get in.
Yeah, out of thousands of students in the country. And I mean, there's just no mistakes, you know, and I just imagine how sad it would have been if I had really let someone talk me out of my dream. So, and don't, if you're watching this and you feel like an example of where you did get talked out of a dream, start today. You know what I mean? Dust that dream off. It's never too late for anything. You know, Samuel Jackson was like 40 something in his first film. The KFC guy was like 60 when he created KFC. You know, we put the limitations on ourselves.
We do absolutely. You know, well said.
We care what people think so much that we rob ourselves of our own magical journey. You know, and it's our own personal journey in this lifetime, in this body. You know. And we don't know when we just don't know. So you might as well make it what you want it to be, you know?
Absolutely. And speaking of personal journeys, I know that Crazy Wild is not the only single that you're putting out during quarantine, but you actually have a project called Quarantine Sessions that sort of, I guess, chronicle some of the things that you've been going through these last few months, or is it deeper than that? Like, tell us about what we can expect from Quarantine Sessions.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be one of the most, like I was on live last night and I just kept seeing the words authentic, authentic, authentic. And D Nice actually popped up on my live, and that's, again, when the universe, this is a man who is just blown into the stratosphere.
Oh, yeah.
Some people are just finding out who he is when he's been around forever. As a rapper, as an artist, as a DJ, people don't know his whole story. And it's like, by being his authentic self and doing what he loved, his whole life changed. And that was like, okay, you're on the right path. So this is my music, unfiltered. There's no input from labels. It's just me. And that's really special, you know?
How many songs do you plan on releasing, or are you still figuring that part out?
I'm thinking I would like to do maybe one I did say every week, but I don't want to oversaturate, maybe like every 2 weeks. Sometimes it'll be an acoustic. I have something really, really amazing that is to a really familiar track from the 90s that I wrote a song over and recorded it, and so I'm getting that mix now. So it's just really exciting. The possibilities are endless.
I know you spoke about being independent. Are you enjoying the freedom of being an independent artist? What's some of the biggest differences of having the support of a record label and being independent?
I have a distribution deal, so I'm not completely 100% independent. It's kind of like the middle ground between both. And I have a lot more creative freedom, but I still have to work with a company on when I release and what I release. So, you know, it's I'm working it, but also I think it's beautiful, and part of what this whole movement, Black Lives Matter, and everything that's going on, I'm feeling, and despite like the disgusting things that are happening to Black women, I feel empowered. You know, I feel empowered as a Black woman to go even harder, to push even further for myself and for my sisters that are behind me and that are next to me and that are the next coming up. So I'm just excited to use my voice even more in the industry, because it's important. It's important.
When you say use your voice, as a platform for what? How do you plan on using your voice?
I just mean, like, in terms of, some of the politics that go on in the industry, or some of the situations that artists find themselves in, none of which are new. Prince wrote "Slave" on his face. It's real. But I think now, at this time, we're just in a place where we all have a platform. It's not celebrities are up here and this one is down here. Like, everyone has a voice, and it's whether you choose to use it. So I'm just at a place in my life where I really have to stand for what's true to me, what's real to me, and know my worth and my value.
Now, you've been in the music industry for almost 2 decades, if not longer than that. You started as a child.
Like 10 years, yeah.
Okay, well, didn't you start recording about 12?
Oh, well, yeah, okay, but not in the industry. Well,
okay.
I mean, because I was like, damn, girl, no.
I'm not trying to age you.
No.
I'm not trying to make you
You're
older
right.
than you are.
You're right. No, I've been doing this for about 2 decades. Yeah, you're right.
And your parents are also in the industry?
Yeah, my parents are in the industry. I'm second generation. I just was always around it. I was always in the studio. My mom had a publishing deal. She was working with Tevin Campbell and Brandy and all these people. And I just got to like sometimes be a fly on the wall, but sometimes she would ask me what I thought, you know, which was great. So.
And with all of that experience and expertise that you have working in the music industry, what are some of the business lessons that you learned or, you know, that you could share?
Yeah. Always have a great lawyer. If you're going to be in a professional setting, if you're going to be working, doing deals, lawyer is one of the most important relationships that you can have, because those contracts are serious and there's no, you can't just be like, oh, I want to return this item, you know, it's not working out for me. Doesn't work like that. So understand your contract, and be true to yourself. Be true to yourself no matter what, and know what you are willing to give up and what you're not willing to give up. You know, there's certain things for me that I've always been firm on, like how I present myself. You know, that belongs to me. I've always been able to write my own songs, but there's just so many things that artists have to deal with, because this business is funding you, you know, so they have a say as well. So it gets tricky, but try to find mentors. I mentor a few people, and I would, my personal thing is have, for me, my biggest supporter is God, and that came after years of like really struggling and finally getting to a place where I felt relieved and safe with God, no matter what was happening in my career.
Yeah, you took a 5-year hiatus from the music industry, right?
I didn't take a hiatus. I wasn't able to release music for quite some time, and I wouldn't change the lessons that I've learned. Like I was saying earlier about the COVID, there's this saying, the serenity prayer: God, grant me the courage to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Absolutely.
So if you can't change it, ain't no use crying and losing sleep. Make lemonade, you know, do what you can. And if you don't feel like doing nothing, that's perfectly okay too, because we all have our limits. And especially as Black people, we really push ourselves extremely hard. You know, we always, from youth, we have to like, you got to be 10 times better. I got to be 10 times faster, smarter. And it's like, you don't, that shouldn't be put on you, and you get to take a breath and you get to take a break and do that for yourself.
Absolutely. And I know another thing that you've done, I guess, taking some of those business lessons, maybe did you use that to start your own record label?
Yes, I started my own label, 212 Enterprises. Just earlier this year, I went on tour. I completely handled all the business. Like, it was an incredible experience, because not only do I know how my business is operating firsthand, for the first couple of years, I was like, I don't care, as long as I have money, I don't care, you know, I just want to shop and sing, and that did not work out well. And it's like we're capable of so much more than we know a lot of times. And I used to say, well, I'm an artist, you know, I don't deal with that. I'm just an artist. No, you can be an artist and an entrepreneur and a businesswoman and on the stock market and know your taxes and all those things. So it's new to me, but it's been a great experience. And when I do start signing artists, I'll have that perspective to offer them as well.
You know, that's a great point because, you know, a lot of artists we see are taking, you know, taking ownership. They, you know, they're doing things to make sure that they own their music and they want, you know, they are entrepreneurs, so they're becoming business savvy. Why is that so important now, especially in 2020?
It's long overdue. It's really a blessing when you think about what artists put into their craft. They sacrifice time with their families, they sacrifice their personal time, their health, their sanity sometimes. And yeah, you can make a lot of money, but if you're left with nothing in the tank for you, what does that matter? You know, we see plenty of people all across the world that have a lot of money and they're not happy. They struggle in different areas, because that's not really the answer, but that's a whole different conversation. I think that ownership and entrepreneurship is especially for Black people. You know what I mean? We're taking our power back. We are taking back our blocks. We're taking back businesses. We're taking up space as we should.
You know, you're absolutely right. And thank you for sharing that. What advice would you give to young artists in the game who may be thinking like you used to think, look, I'm a creative, I'm an artist, I just want to focus on my art, that's it?
I would say that this is like, it looks so glamorous, but it's truly so much work. And we all know Beyonce, and that's why Beyonce is Beyonce, because she puts in 25 hours a day, you know. I think that if you can do that, if you can get yourself to that level, you should, especially when you're starting out. Just work. Always do more than is asked. That should be a rule of thumb. If you have a performance, don't ever think like, oh, well, I don't need to do this because it's just this. You never know. Never know who's going to be in that room. So you always want to represent yourself at the best level that you can. And don't take things for granted. Stay humble. And know how to say no, you know, especially for my girls, my young girls. Know how to say no, know how to say hell no when you know what I mean? And walk away. If you feel uncomfortable, you walk away, period.
Do you think it's better for young artists to try to go the independent route, or do you think they should, you know, still aim to get a deal?
I think that's hard for me to say. But I was one of the last artists that got a traditional deal. Like, this was right before streaming took over. My first album sold physical copies in store. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't even on streaming platforms. So I think everyone has to look at that situation as it applies to them. I know that if you, especially these young kids, if you can work this TikTok and your socials and have a brand that people can buy into and that they want to support, you be consistent with that. I would say start like that. You know what I mean? Start that way. If you know what you want to do. If you know that you have talent, but you do want help and you want input, then maybe go the route of trying to get signed first. But if you can do it yourself, do as much as you can on your own.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Before we let you go, I do want to get your take on a sort of lighter question. Mm-hmm. You know, what would be your ideal versus battle?
Oh, man. Dead or alive?
Yeah, sure.
Whitney versus Michael.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Two of my favorite artists. I would love to just see them go back and forth and just, you know, because they're so different, but they're so powerful. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. I think, wow, that's definitely would be a dream for all of us. Elle Varner, let us know again how we can check in with you, how we can support your work, and where we can get a hold on your new single, Crazy Wild, as well as the other things that you put out.
Thank you. All my socials are at Elle Varner, ELLEVARNER. Crazy Wild is on SoundCloud. And yeah, just you'll be part of this new wave for me, this new chapter. So if you're new, come on board and let's do this.
Yes, thank you so much. We
Thank
appreciate your
you.
time and good luck with everything.
Thank you. It was great talking to you.